Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today we're doing the next video in my palette roulette series in which I review a palette that I have in my collection that you might also have in your collection. It's not necessarily about the biggest, brandest new thing out there on the market. It's purely about getting use out of the products that I have in my collection because I have a pretty immense collection and I just want to get use out of all of my stuff. So today we will be reviewing two palettes, actually, kind of. I guess it's more like three, but it is a couple of the Melt Stacks and the Too Faced Tutti Frutti Razzle Dazzle whatever whatchamacallit palette. And I hope that you're in for it. And if you are, please keep on watching. For those of you new here today, hi, my name is Donna. So happy to have you here today. I am a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. I also work in the beauty industry as a district leader for Ulta Beauty, and I get a lot of education in my position, so I like to come to you and give you all the tidbits of information about all the things that I'm learning, about the things that I'm putting on my face, so that you also have that education out there. And with that said, I also kind of just like to chit chat about makeup, and you people are my people. I pick you, Pikachu, because ain't nobody in my personal life giving a poop about what I got to say about makeup. I do hope that you find that this channel brings as much solace to your soul as it does to mine, and that you'll want to subscribe before you go. With that being said, let's jump into this review. All right, folks, so today we are reviewing a couple of the Melt Stacks, and we're also reviewing this Too Faced Razzle Dazzle Berry eyeshadow palette that I believe was part of the Tutti Frutti collection from Too Faced. So I am going to do the Melt Stacks first just because that's the way I have it lined out in my notes, but I wanted to start with saying I'm super sorry that this video didn't come to you last week. It was supposed to, and I just kind of got busy. My daughter came down with COVID, so like there's that, but also like I had a lot of family come into town and I was super busy. I didn't get my Friday video up last week. I didn't get my Monday video up last week. I have a whole wealth of a bank of videos that were supposed to go up, but those two videos are two in particular that I can't like necessarily pre-record and make sure that it gets populated into the system so that it goes up whether I'm busy or not, and I feel bad about that. But with that said, we're all out here just kind of living our life, right? Nobody's perfect. And I'm super sorry if you were looking forward to this video last week, but here I am. I'm here this week and I cannot wait to go over these with you. And I'm glad that you stuck around for the review. So these two stacks here, I actually have two in this stack, and I have the Melt Lovesick Stack. I also have the Melt Gunmetal stack. Each one of these stacks is a $48 stack. It comes with 4 shadows, and each one of the shadows in the stack is 0.09 ounces per pan. So they're giant pans. When you consider that a regular like single shadow is about 0.05 ounces, 0.09 is almost double that. And each one of them comes with a mirror to top the stack off with. So when I don't have them separated, I have an extra like little magnetic mirror that I hang up on my like refrigerator, or I put it in my purse. Each one of these I would say also contains 4 like complementary shadows to a palette. So these aren't going to be 4 shadows that can stand alone on their own. One thing that I would say is that I kind of hate this packaging, if I'm honest, but we'll get there. So the Lovesick Stack has 2 shimmers and 2 matte shadows in it. I don't necessarily think that the shimmers are actual shimmers. I think that they're more of kind of like satins. The wear time of both palettes is approximately 8 hours. I wouldn't say that they lasted much longer than that, and there was a significant amount of fading that I started to notice at that time frame. They both performed best over a prime dye. The Gunmetal Stack performed best over a tacky prime dye, so like a glitter glue or something like that, simply because 2 of the shadows in that palette specifically are very glitter based. But only one shade in this one, the Lovesick shade, the red one, performed super well. I found that there was a lot of inconsistencies with the formula in these stacks, and that pains me to say because I love Melt as a brand, but I wasn't super fond of how these stacks worked. Let's go through the shadows because I definitely want to show you the shadows in this and really talk about each shadow as we go through it. So the first one I'm going to walk through is this one. It is Promiscuous, and it is a medium purple. It leans very warm. It's very like silky to the touch in the palette, and this is what it looks like on the hand. You can see it didn't really swatch super well. It doesn't have a whole lot of pigmentation. I found it really hard to blend. It is in my crease today, but when you start blending it, it definitely shears out and becomes kind of nothing. I used it in my crease today to kind of deepen up the look, but then I also went over it with a darker purple in the Tutti Frutti palette that I will show you later to get it to work the way I needed it. I mean, it's an okay shadow. It's just not a fantastic shadow. Like I said, smooth to the touch and a decent purple, but a decent purple if you put it on with your finger, pressed it in and let it go that way, not if you blended it. If you blended it, it just kind of went away. Then we have Fixated, which is this one here, and this is a deep like smoky blue matte. I would say that this one also feels really silky in the pan. This one feels a lot better even than the purple one does. It had to be built up to get the opacity out of it that you wanted to. It doesn't necessarily swatch horribly. This looks really nice, really opaque, but as you blend this out on your eye, you're gonna find that it shears itself out really quickly. It was, I think, the most sheer of these shadows upon application, especially on blend. If you're blending it, you pretty much have to like call it quits. So you definitely have to build that one multiple times to get the opacity that you want. This one is Assimilate. It's a coral shimmer. This has a little bit of a golden shift to it. Again, it feels really silky in the pan. This is what that one looks like, and I really liked this as a shadow. On its own, it was really pretty. You can't hardly even see it on my swatch though. This had really great pigmentation. It's super creamy in texture, but it was super hard to blend. It looked very uneven if you wanted to blend it. The wear time on this one though was around 9 hours. What I did find with this one though is on the lid, and if you have any kind of crepiness on your eye, it is going to exacerbate any kind of texture or aging that you have to your eye, in my opinion. But it's such a beautiful shade. The last one for that one is this one here. This one is Lovesick. I would say that of all the shadows in this palette, this one actually feels a little bit grippy in the pan, so it feels like it's a pressed pigment of sorts, and it swatches far worse than it actually applies. I found that this was the best of the bunch as far as these shadows go in the Lovesick pack. I feel like this one was very blendable without getting patchy. I also feel like it wore well for 8 hours without really any significant fading. It sheared out very well, but it also kept its opacity if you wanted it to. Upon application, it was a really great shadow to work with, and I really quite liked it. So moving on to the Gunmetal stack, this one has 2 glitters, 1 matte, 1 metallic. And again, complementary, again, 0.09 ounces per pan, really quite large single shadows. Truly, the wear time about 8 hours. I did find that this one wore a little bit longer than the Lovesick stack, which is saying something because it's mostly glitter, but there was a lot of shifting, a lot of fading. It performed best over a glitter glue because there are glitters in this palette. And what I would say about that though is, even though there are glitters in this palette, the 2 glitter shadows in here had really great pigmentation for a glitter shadow. Like, I didn't find that there was any amount of fallout that I was getting from the shadows that really took from the pigmentation that I was wanting in the shade. So that's not always the case with glitter shadows. A lot of times with glitter shadows, they will just have the glitter and not a lot of really great pigmentation behind that glitter, and that wasn't the case for these guys. I actually quite liked this palette more than the other one, which is saying something because I hate glitters. This does have a significant amount of fallout though because of the glitter shadows in it. I think also just because it's so dang dark. With this one, just to note, this one had so much fallout to it, like so much fallout, even worse than the blue in here. I did find that I loved this blue with the Gunmetal stack. I thought it paired really, really well. So the shadows in this one are this guy here, which is harsh stone white. This is a warm beige metallic. It is the best shadow in the quad in my opinion, and it is best used with a damp brush. So I did use this quite often in my brow bone and in my inner corner because it was just such a beautiful shadow. It goes on so well. It's very, very creamy to the touch, and it looks very creamy upon application. This is a beautiful shadow, and even if I kept none of the rest, I would definitely keep this shadow. I loved this shadow. It was very smooth and dense, but not super thick. It went on beautifully. It blended out well, and I didn't find that it exacerbated any texture on an eye look. The next one is this one, which is Assimilate. And this one is a cool medium like taupey color, and it is a matte. It is also very, very silky to the touch, and this is its swatch. I loved kind of the grayish tone to this, but it also kind of leaned a little bit lavender, honestly. It's got a really semi-opaque finish. It's very buildable, though, to full opacity. It's very soft and powdery. It did have slight fallout, but it blended out really well as well. I do think that this was a great shadow as well. And then we have this one, which is Industrial. Industrial is a dark charcoal glitter. I found that even though it is a glitter, it doesn't feel gritty in the pan. It doesn't feel like a glitter would, and you can see it's got amazing pigmentation. However, if you don't want this to fall out throughout the day and upon application, you really need to put it over a glitter glue because otherwise it will fall out throughout the day. It had great pigmentation and depth. It did not blend super well. I would say it didn't really play well with other shadows, to be honest, but it was really, really pretty, and there is a significant amount of fallout down into this peach shade from that shadow. So really, really using a tacky base is going to be so important while using these shadows. Then we have this one, which is called Gunmetal, and this is a cool toned like gray glitter. It does have a little bit of a blue like shift to it, I feel like, and again, it doesn't feel like a glitter based shadow. It doesn't feel like grippy in the pan. It is a stunning glitter in any eye look, but also, I mean, just look at that swatch. It is so pretty. This is kind of a drier glitter. It's very chunky and loose pressed. It worked best patted on with a finger versus the other glitter, which kind of worked really well with, honestly, with a dense brush and patted on versus with a finger and kind of swiped on. Even if you used it over a glitter base, there was still a ton of chunky fallout that came with this. I do think that even though you can't really tell in the screen all that great, the two glitters in this palette, these two guys, they do look very similar in the screen, but there is quite a bit of difference between the two shadows. One is a little bit more blue and the other one is a lot more gray. So I do feel like they complemented each other, but you can see like all the glitter kind of piled up in this shade in the corner here, and I just blew on my hand and all the glitter blew right off. So it just kind of came off my hand in a chunk versus like fell off like or faded away, and that's kind of how it reacted on your eye too. I really didn't honestly love working with these stacks, and with that said, like, I got them to work and I came up with some beautiful eye looks using them, but I didn't love working with them. And what I can tell you also is that this packaging, while I find it innovative and while I find it kind of cool, honestly. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So the packaging is just, it's a plastic, like magnetic cylinder or circle, and they magnetize to each other. But what I found during this whole process is that, you know, magnets have like positive and negative ends, and sometimes if you don't get it like exactly so, that it wants to slip off in another direction, and that causes actually damage to the shadows. In addition to that, they're not, I mean, it stays pretty well, right? Like I'm shaking it pretty hard, it stays pretty well together. But if it gets moved at all, you find yourself putting the disc into your shadow. And so in my opinion, I think my friend Nona does it right. Like she has a tin that she's got all these magnetized to as singles, and I think that that's really the best way to have these, in addition to the fact that they're kind of like, this isn't like the normal shape of a palette. So like when you store them, how do you store them? For me, they sit up on this shelf right here, and they sit like this on the shelf. So it's not really a big deal, but they could get like jostled and jarred in your makeup collection and cause problems really with the, I stuck my fingers in those shadows, I don't know how many times, because just trying to pull apart the, you know, the magnetized discs or whatever it was, like stuck my fingers in those shadows. And once just right today while trying to pull them apart. So there's that. The magnet is strong, but it's also not going to be significant for travel for you. It's going to, these aren't travel shadows for sure. Storage is maybe burdensome. I feel like it's inventive, different, innovative, but also kind of a pain in the ass. So with that being said, let's move on to the Too Faced Razzle Dazzle Berry, which I do believe was part of their Tutti Frutti collection. Let me know if you know. So this palette, when it first came out, was $31. It is 0.21 ounces or 0.03 ounces per shadow. And it has 7 shadows in it that are in the realm of like a pinky purple, you know, blah, blah, blah. It launched in 2018 and was supposedly a permanent palette, but you can't find it anywhere online anymore. So this is what the palette looks like. It's beautiful berries. It's like got this raspberry theme, and then you turn it over and it's got like the shade names of each one of the shades and the information on the palette. It is metal. It's really pretty. I kind of like that it's got this like different kind of feel to the palette. It's not just a rectangle palette, and it does have the TF from Too Faced like etched into the metal right there, and it pulls open, and this is what the palette looks like. It's pinky purple in nature. It does have a really nice sized mirror on it. It says Too Faced on the mirror, and the packaging is gold. I do think that this would be better with like a black background as far as a palette goes, but I do think that it's pretty. This palette called my name from the very minute it was released. It does have a little bit of a berry scent to it, but it's not like a sickeningly sweet berry. It reminds me of like a soap from Bath and Body Works that maybe has berry notes in it. Its wear time is about 7 hours, and these did perform a lot better than I have ever experienced a Too Faced eyeshadow performing. Too Faced is not one of my favorite brands, if I'm honest, and the biggest reason why is because I just don't find them to be very consistent. I'm gonna stand because my hip is killing me today.
You never know just how old you're getting until body parts that wouldn't hurt. My hip is killing me. I'm old.
These did perform a lot better than I've ever had a Too Faced eyeshadow perform. Even though the wear time was only 7 hours, the wear time was a good 7 hours. Like I didn't see any kind of fading happening, which I have seen before in Too Faced. And that's the basic reason why I don't really pick up Too Faced. Like Too Faced shadows have always been really inconsistent in my opinion. These ones, I don't know. I would give this palette like a B+, whereas most Too Faced shadows I would give probably a D, a C-, somewhere in there. It had a really dry formula, and it was therefore very powdery. I did find though that even though it had a dry and powdery formula, the fallout was pretty minimal, except for as it pertains to this really darkened purple shadow right here. There's a significant amount of fallout from that palette, or from that shadow. But for the most part, fallout didn't exist with this palette, and I was really quite shocked. It's very, very easy to blend, and it pairs well with all the other shadows, even as like difficult as the melt stacks were to use and utilize. I found that this palette worked really well with just making those two stacks feel like a semblance of normalcy. Today, my eye look has this shadow, this shadow, this shadow, and this shadow in it. And I think this is my favorite eye look of the week. Like, it's a really pretty, like, just deep purple eyeshadow. And I did use the melt stacks as well, but my favorite shadows from this look came from the Tutti Frutti palette. Razzle Dazzle Berry palette. Why do I keep calling it the Tutti Frutti palette? I do feel like this was best over primer for longevity of shadow. I do think that it didn't really last a whole lot on a dry eye. Maybe around that 5-hour mark is when I started seeing some kind of fading on a dry eye. And in here, the shimmery shades were nice, but not like fantastic. Like, I have 2 of the shimmer shades on my eye, 3 actually on my eye today, and I don't really think that they're like super impactful, like metallic shimmery shades, but they're nice shimmery shades. I also feel like they don't exacerbate texture at all, which was super fantastic, specifically coming from the fact that I felt like these ones did. And I think that they blended, the shimmer shades in this palette blended really super well. Like, even the dark one, I feel like blended really super well. So let's look at the shades in this palette, and I'm just going to go straight from this side over. So the first one we have is Dazzle, and Dazzle is a warm, like, yellowish peach. This shade was a really pretty shade. It is what is in my brow bone today. I felt like it was, if I wasn't using the one out of the stack, then it was the one that I was using, because it really did function very well in a brow bone, inner corner, something like that. It was also a really great shade on your lid space. It didn't exacerbate texture. I didn't really find that it was yellow, though. I really think that it is just more peachy than it is anything else. Then we have this one here, which is called Pink Suede, and it is a pinky coral matte. Feels really silky in the pan. It's a really beautiful transition shade. Then we have this one, which is called Razzle, and it is a rosy copper metallic, and it is kind of creamy. It felt almost a creamed powder formula. Really pretty, really stark if you want it to be, and this is in the inner corner of my eye look today. I loved it. All right, then we have this one, which is called Buried Treasure, and it is a bright, like, it's listed as a bright plum frost, but I don't know that I would necessarily call this plum. I definitely feel like it's almost kind of like a red maroon. Then we have Boysenberry. Boysenberry is a fuchsia matte. It's a really beautiful matte shade. It is in my eye look today. I felt like it went on very well. It blended out very well. It was one of those shadows that you really have to build up to get the opacity that you want, but I think that that was smart, because this could be a really crazy shadow if you just go in ham all at once. It went well with a lot of different colors. It went well with the red. It goes well with pinks. It went well with purples, obviously. And then we have this one. This one's called Bad to the Berry. This is a sparkle black matte. And while I normally would say, why are we doing mattes with shimmer in them? This one actually, when wet, held on to the shimmer quite well. The shimmer is pretty packed in there. It does feel a little bit grippy in the pan, you know, a lot like it has glitter in it, but not like super grippy or sandpapery. It is really pretty though. And then we have the last one, which is this guy here, and this is That's My Jam. This also felt a little bit like a creamed matte. Or creamed powder, and this is a blackened purple metallic. I don't know why they call this a blackened purple metallic. I think they got that backwards. it's not really blackened. It is really a beautiful lavender shade, and it is in my, like today, all over my lid. I really liked this Too Faced palette. I was really kind of blown away by how I felt about this Too Faced palette, because Too Faced, like I said, is not typically my jam. I do believe I got this palette at TJ Maxx, and what strikes me as odd is this is one of the best Too Faced palettes I've used, and it's at TJ Maxx, and it was supposed to be permanent, and it's not for sale anymore. I'm wondering why. I wonder what happened, but yeah, I would definitely recommend this palette. I think that it's a great palette. It blended really well. The eye look that I have on today is almost entirely from that palette. I do think I like the palette. I didn't find anything wrong with it, and I am kind of not a fan of Too Faced, so that's saying a lot. With that said, that's my thoughts and opinions on the melt stacks as well, or at least the two I have. And then the Too Faced Razzle Dazzle Berry palette. I'm gonna go pick a new palette. I will be right back. All right, so it's been a minute since we've used a Morphe palette, so I thought we'd do a Morphe palette. I got this palette in gratis, I believe. I know I didn't purchase it, so I'm pretty sure it came in gratis. It is kind of warped, so I don't know how I feel about that, but this is the 35D Morphe palette, so the Desert Bouquet palette, and I love the exterior of the packaging of this. And I think I've said that before, like Morphe gets us every single time with presentation, packaging presentation. Their packaging these days has changed to the cardboard packaging, and they're getting a little more detailed with their packaging in that, you know, manner. But before it was just about presentation, how all the shades were lined up in the palette. But now we've got packaging and presentation. So here's the true tea. I don't know that I will. This has got a lot of shades in it that I think that I will love, but this has also got a lot of shades in it, specifically, like, you know, a lot of these two rows here that I'm not sure I will love. So I'm interested to try it. We'll see how it goes. I didn't purchase it. I got it in gratis. So I'm gonna use this for the next week, and then we will come back to you and we will talk to you about that palette on Monday next week. Hope that sounds like something you want to see, so that you'll want to subscribe to my channel. There are 56% of you out there watching me that aren't subscribed. So what's stopping you? I would love to have you along for this crazy ride of mine. I would love to hit 1,000 subscribers this year. That would be fantastic. My goal is 1,200, but I just would love to hit 1,000. So if you guys could help me out, subscribe to my channel. If you're watching me, I would love to have you along for this crazy ride of mine. Please let me know down in the comment section that you've subscribed. I would love to welcome you personally. I just want to thank every single one of you for showing up today, being here, watching me, helping me out. And yeah, I just hope that 2022 is treating y'all kindly. I hope that your 2021 season was amazing, and that we're going into 2022 with a refreshed mindset. I hope that you and yours are safe and healthy and well and doing as best that you can in this crazy, crazy world that we have going on today. And with that being said, please love each other, but love each other from afar. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.